going to start off with some hot topics, and there's a lot to cover, as always. So, Jared, take us away here with a couple things. Junk fees.
Yeah, we had a couple months where hot topics were probably few and far between, and then it seems like they have just been coming at us left and right here. And it's not just one regulatory agency. And so we'll start with this junk fee initiative update. We've had that topic here as part of the monthly connection before. And if you remember, actually, you go back a year, actually longer than that, early 2022, the White House kind of set the stage for this and got the other regulatory agencies to jump in. And they said, we're going to go on this excursion, this initiative to get rid of junk fees. And we all kind of went, well, what's that mean? And we're starting to get some ideas about what they mean by that. Earlier this week, the White House, the Federal Trade Commission, and the CFPB put out multiple announcements. In fact, the CFPB put out like 4 or 5 of them, where those other 2 groups only did 1 or 2. But anyway, you'll be able to get to all of those via the link that's provided in that agenda for today's program. The White House, the short take on their announcement. They continue to target, if not throw more gasoline onto the junk fee fire. I'll give you a little more insight on that as we talk about the CFPB stuff here in just a moment. Probably the most black and white thing that came out of the multiple announcements was the Federal Trade Commission. We knew that they were looking at proposing some additional UDAP rules, and they've rolled out another unfair and deceptive rule. This has to do with fees, and I'll explain the fees here in a moment. It's a 161-page proposal, but there's only actually 2 pages of regulation. So we were talking about books before the program here, and they've mentioned nonfiction. Well, here's some nonfiction. You can skip to the last 2 pages, and you'll get the regulation. There's a whole lot of, here's what we thought about proposing, here's the feedback we got, and now we're doing the actual proposal based upon this, which is, again, 2 pages of regulation. Here's what it comes down to. The rule applies specifically to businesses that are within the Federal Trade Commission's jurisdiction. However, what you're going to find is that while financial institutions like banks and credit unions are not directly in the FTC's jurisdiction, Section 5 of the Federal Trade Commission carries over to your regulators, and that's where they're going to look to take these interpretations and apply them. So this rule will, in fact, apply to you. And so here's the 2 things. It prohibits hidden fees, and it prohibits misleading fees. Now, I thought those 2 things were already covered under the Section 5 Federal Trade Commission unfair deceptive acts or practices. And then I was for sure that it was covered under abusive under the Dodd-Frank Act. But here we have a Federal Trade Commission rule that's going to specifically say, hey, you can't go here. I'm not going to get into all the really deep nuts and bolts on this because, again, it's only 2 pages long. But the idea is around total price for things. So the total price for this widget or this product, that service. You can't leave things out. And they give examples like when you go to maybe you've rented a house on Vrbo or one of those websites before, and they advertise the cost as being maybe $3,000 for a week's rental, but they leave out the $500 that it takes to hire the house cleaner to come in and clean up after you leave. And that's not negotiable. That's added onto the price. And so they're going to take that same concept and apply it to any business, which could include a financial institution such as a bank or a credit union. And it's kind of similar when they get into this prohibition on misleading fees. But like I said earlier, I think we were already there with UDAP. They just give us something that's a little more narrow, a little more black and white, and what they believe is a new form of fee, which is a junk fee. There's a comment period for 60 days after it hits the Federal Register. We're not there yet. So that's the Federal Trade Commission part of this junk fee initiative continuation. The next thing, yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I just said, now remind everybody, Federal Trade Commission isn't a banking regulator. They're a commerce regulator, right? So this, your tickets, Ticketmaster, those kinds of things and stuff like that.
Cable TV, cell phone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Good.
All that's going to be, so it's not just banking. So it's going to get probably a lot more press than a traditional banking regulation because it covers so many more industries. And so you'll hear about it.